Well, hello and welcome to Talk Leadership with Cedrick. You know, everybody needs a little TLC. Talk Leadership with Cedrick is where we focus on leadership and personal growth with business leaders, educators, and local thought leaders. Our goal is to introduce our audience to leaders who are making an impact with innovative ideas. You know, our guiding leadership principle is the law of contribution, which says grow in yourself enables you to grow others. So you can't give what you don't have. So first you must grow yourself in order to grow others. So we believe that outstanding leaders like yourself will help us to help others. So tonight we have another dynamic leader with us. Now, you know, every week I like to do a proper introduction of our guest, and tonight will be no different. So let me introduce to you Miss Orelia Lawdins. Now, let me read you her impressive resume. Listen to this. She's a native of Jennings, Louisiana, and she graduated from Jennings High School in 2005. Orelia actively participated in sports and other community and school-related activities, different pageants where she excelled in all areas, holding local, state, and national titles. In fact, she's still ranked in some of the local, state, and national rankings. She is a 4-time state champion in extemporaneous speaking and continues to work with various programs instituting educational and personal development opportunities within her local communities. In 2004, she received a key to the city. So if you want the key to get in all the buildings in Jennings, talk to Orelia. She received a key to the city for her outstanding community service. Ms. Lawdins attended Northwestern State University, where she represented her school in cheerleading, Miss Black and Gold for Southwest Region, and she gained the national title for Miss Black US United. While at Northwestern State, Orelia accumulated several academic accolades. She received her Bachelor of Arts in Sociology with a minor in business. Then she went on to Southern University Law Center, where she pursued and obtained her Juris Doctorate degree in 2014. In 2015, she didn't stop there, folks. In 2015, she attended the prestigious Columbia University in New York, where she obtained and completed her master's degree in science, master's of science degree in sports management. There, she focused on the legal implications of wearable technology for professional athletes. She currently has a law practice in Jennings, Louisiana, and is an attorney with the Doran and Cawthorn law firm, where she focuses on the practice areas of criminal law, family and domestic law, personal injury, and other civil areas. Now, I know some of you guys need a lawyer out there, so you heard that, right? Criminal law, family and domestic law, personal injury, and other civil areas. She is an active member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the Louisiana Bar Association, the American Bar Association, and she sits on several boards where she serves as a legal liaison and advisor. She is a proud member of Our Lady Perpetual Health Catholic Church in Jennings, Louisiana, and she works diligently with the community to assist in growth, education, and education opportunities that are available to both young and older members. So let's welcome the attorney for Southwest Louisiana, Miss Orelia Lawdins. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I am glad you're here, and I'm excited to have a good conversation with you. And so folks, we'll sit back and relax. You know, I normally will go through and we'll ask some questions, but feel free to chime in from Facebook and YouTube. We're excited about having her on the show. So Orelia, tell the audience, now, you know, our families go like way back, way before you were even born. And in fact, your mom used to babysit me, but you know, we won't talk about that right now. But I was the best baby she ever babysitted. That's what I heard. Um, so tell our audience about your career path and how did you get started and what made you decide to go to law school?
I think honestly, since I was 6, I really decided I was going to be a lawyer. It was probably a combination of not wanting to wake up very early and wanting to do something that was a bit more of a path for a terminal degree. I made up my mind and I stuck with it. So went to high school, went through, got to law school. I really actually thought I probably would not get into litigation very much. Um, Ended up being just the opposite. Graduated, got an opportunity to come back, got a case, and since I wasn't the first case, I've kind of never looked back thereafter. Uh, it's, I guess it was just kind of a good fit. I'm not the best at math and science. My siblings took all of those genes and skipped right over me. So it was a good fit for me. I enjoyed the work. I enjoyed the thought process of it. And the more that I practice, I'm pretty sure that this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well, being a lawyer is, I'm assuming, rewarding and fun and all of those things. So, I heard some of the areas that you practice in, but is that considered your legal specialization?
So the good thing about being very much wake up, do something different every day. It's the practice of law because you really can never master it. I practice really a lot in criminal um, and family and personal injury. I do quite a bit of litigation in the criminal aspect and a lot in the family aspect. So not per se specializations, but those are the areas of practice. You
Okay.
can kind of get a specialization, but I think being from a small town and the need for individuals to have access to good legal representation kind of prevents you sometimes from being so narrow in just one area.
Okay. All right. And so you have an office in Jennings.
Yes,
Do you practice all over the state? Do you have any other offices located in Louisiana?
we do. I practice everywhere, just about.
Okay.
There are a few places that I haven't been. We have offices in Opelousas, Lafayette, Baton Rouge, and in Houston.
Wow.
And of course,
Houston.
here in Jennings.
Okay. Wow. All right. So you're just spreading out. That's why I call you the lawyer for Southwest Louisiana, but it's Southwest Louisiana and Texas.
That being here, that Texas to Louisiana border, it's really close, especially in our domestic issues that crossover. It's literally what, maybe 10, 15 minutes. You don't even kind of know you're in Texas. Uh,
Right.
for a lawyer, obviously, it creates some interesting issues of jurisdiction and where you are. But for most Louisianans, it's very common for us to go to Texas, and it's not even a thought. So it was kind of natural. I enjoy that I-10 border.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. You're right. It's actually pretty close. There are a lot of people in the audience that are listening either now or they'll be listening later because we'll do another watch party for this show a little bit later this evening as well. And some of them, may need a lawyer. But I saw in one of your Facebook posts, and I wrote this down. It says you want to help the voiceless. Why is that important to you?
It's really important because I know that there may be a lot of people from smaller towns. If you look at what's happening around us, it's pretty obvious that there are a lot of people who have a lot to say. They don't have access or they're not sure how to say it. And so it's important that, you know, the regular person on the street or the person sitting in an ivory tower, that we all have access to someone who can let us know what our rights are, and for somebody who's really going to fight, indifferent to the amount of money that you can pay for that. And that's kind of something really important to me, especially being here in Jennings and seeing that there are so many people who the lack of knowledge kind of turns into something that it would not have turned into had they known what their rights were.
Yes, and unfortunately, a lot of times we hear when you don't have money, it limits your access, right?
That's true. That's very true.
And so, how for someone that doesn't have a lot of money, what's the best way for them to get legal help?
So there are actually quite a few different things that you can look into to get some legal help. The Louisiana State Bar Association actually has several different things on their website that you can look into. Most places here, we have a Southwest Louisiana Legal Association that assists with different things, and it's based off of how much you make. So it's kind of pay in accordance to what you can actually pay versus the prices that attorneys would sometimes charge. And there are some attorneys who do several things pro bono, larger firms that have individuals that do work for people who don't have access. I also feel, honestly, as an attorney or as someone who has the means in your community, that it's kind of your job and your obligation to make sure that you're reaching out to people who don't have those means, or at least pointing them in the direction of where they need to go for access. Or in some instances, I have no issue sharing information. I mean, knowledge is power,
Sure,
and it's selfish to try and keep that to yourself.
sure, absolutely. Well, that's awesome. With this crisis, a lot of businesses were impacted. So, from a legal perspective, has law offices and the courts been impacted by this particular crisis?
They definitely have. For the courts, I think for places that are smaller parishes, um, for those in Louisiana, and the equivalent of that would be counties for those outside of Louisiana, they have been able to probably utilize technology that personally I think can make things go a lot better. But as far as the criminal side of it, it's proven to be quite interesting. It's definitely been impacted. You have dates that have been pushed back, some people who are literally just, sitting in jail just waiting, and there's not much that can be done. Um, they're not really transporting individuals. So I'm sure the fallout from this would be quite interesting. Um, I think it's also kind of forced courts to kind of take a look at where they are now and how to make sure that things are still getting processed and expedited timely. And I think that sometimes can be a challenge for people who are very used to a system that works one way. And now people are forced to think differently and utilize, I mean, other opportunities or different types of softwares and networking that probably will put us in a better place moving forward once we work the kinks out of all of this.
Okay, all right. Yeah, there's a lot of businesses that have been impacted by this, but we know that our court system really needs to be able to operate so that we have civil, I guess, discourse and law and order, I guess, is the best way to say it. Um, if someone was interested in becoming an entrepreneur, but they also wanted to go to law school, what should they be thinking about in terms of, because if you have a business, a law firm, you're an entrepreneur, right? But what should they be thinking about? One, to make a decision to go to law school, and then two, about that entrepreneurship side.
I'm going to go backwards and say, for the entrepreneur aspect of it, the practice of law and the business of law are two very different things. Um, so that business knowledge, business savvy, getting people in your corner or educating yourself on how to make a business operate is going to be a necessity for any entrepreneur, especially someone who wants to be a solo practitioner. Um, it's a bit different because we do also have some ethical rules and obligations that we have to adhere to, which kind of takes you out of your standard entrepreneurial business type setting.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, a business is still a business, and the bottom line of this business is to make a profit. So you have to have things in place to be able to sustain your business and understand if you're not profitable or you can't somehow, establish a foothold, then if you want to give back, you won't be able to do that. On the flip side of deciding to go to law school, it should never be a difficult decision to invest in yourself. If most people will work for somebody else, and if you think about it, you make them quite a bit of money.
Mhm.
um, so you can make that same investment in yourself, and you should. Law school is not for the faint of heart. It is it is probably one of the best experiences I've had, but I will tell you that I don't know any law student who hasn't gone to law school and has not cried within that first semester. If you didn't cry the first semester you were in school, you were not in law school.
You
It's
It's that tough, huh?
it is when we first got there, one of the introductory classes, they said the law is a jealous mistress and she will take all of your time if you let her. And that is true. That is very, very true.
That's a good one. I hadn't heard that one. All right, that's a good one there.
Yes, it's very true. But if you're considering law school in any capacity, um, look into where you want to go, what these schools offer, and understand it is a 3-year rigorous program, but those are 3 years that you'll invest in yourself for a lifetime of endless opportunities. And practicing law is only one aspect of what you can do as a lawyer. My professor used to say lawyers run the world. And I agree with him because there is no aspect of life that you don't utilize an attorney, whether that's professional sports, television, standard government, uh, transactions, banking, all of them need lawyers.
You know what? That's actually a great point. I even thought about that, but you're right. It's amazing. Even if you're in sales, the organizations, we have a lot of high power attorneys on staff. So,
I may consider making a change in what I'm practicing.
yeah, I might do that too. But that means I have to go to law school first.
Well, oddly enough, uh, it is not a traditional secondary type school or postgraduate degree school. Most of
Mhm.
my classmates were older than me. I had classmates that were well over 50. The majority of classmates coming in, I believe, were maybe 28 or 29. So they had, work experience, life experience. There were maybe a handful of us, probably under 25 or so, that were between the ages of like 21 and 25 when they started. So law school, I think, is kind of fashioned for those individuals who have a bit more life experience. Now, I'm by no means am I saying don't go straight through if you have the opportunity to do that, but don't limit yourself if you think that you're too old to go.
Yes. In fact, one of my friends growing up from elementary school, his mom decided to go to law school um, during our high school years. So she was on the other side of 30, and I don't know what their age, but she was on that other side.
Don't get yourself in trouble.
Exactly. You see, the law of the hole says, when in a hole, stop digging. So, yes, we were in high school when she decided to go to law school. So yeah, I know people do it. So that's awesome. That I want to make sure that our audience understand that anybody with the intention, being intentional and consistent about growth and opportunities, can decide to go to law school if they want to.
Absolutely. There's really no age limit. I was a teaching assistant when I was in law school, and what I actually found was my younger students, those who were coming straight from undergrad, struggled a little bit more with some of the work and kind of understanding that law school is not just about the work. It's also about understanding a hierarchy and understanding that you can walk into a courtroom where you have a judge that just doesn't want to hear what you have to say. And it's his prerogative to do that. Your option is to make sure you have tough skin and take it up on appeal. That's what those courts are there for. Um, but I think people who tend to have more work experience understands, okay, there's a boss that I have to answer to, and if I don't like something, I can kind of work through this, and I am not necessarily entitled to go straight to the president or the dean of the university if I don't like how this professor is handling things. Because in the real world, you do not have that option sometimes. Like, I can't go right to the Supreme Court every single time that I have a judge that does something that I don't agree with or that is adverse to what the law states. And it happens a lot. I mean, we've been reading about it for since, this
Yeah,
is,
this
for me
whole
it's a regular read, but that's kind of where we are now. Um, so that idea of having life experience coupled with work experience makes getting through law school and probably understanding how to prioritize time and family and obligations and life itself. I found that they tended to do um, better for, I think, maybe just having more life experience.
experiences. Okay, I actually like that. So this is important, audience, that you picked on what she's saying. She's saying that just because you have, in fact, now let me say it another way, that your life experiences may help you be a little bit more successful in law school because you've grown up a little bit, matured a little bit more, understand prioritization, higher. She talked about hierarchy, understanding that you're going to have to give some things up in order to go up, right? So if you are on that, one of those people that's on that border trying to think about, should I go to law school or not? Listen to what attorney Orelia Lawdins is saying here, that you too can make that choice to go. Orelia, the law of curiosity says growth is stimulated by asking why. So in other words, ask more questions. As an attorney, how do you come up with all those questions to ask? I mean, so I watch a lot of judge shows, and I see all the questions you guys ask. I play an attorney in my living room, but you're a real attorney. So how do you guys come up with all these questions to ask?
So I think it's kind of relative to what you're looking for. Think of it kind of like your mom when she's trying to get an answer from you. She fashions questions in most cases that she already knows the answer to, which is typically the safest thing to do.
The trap.
Yes, it's take notes from mom. She definitely got it right. And then there is the sometimes what I'm asking questions about isn't at all the information that I'm trying to get. Um, it depends on what you're really trying to get or what information you need for them to say or to disclose. And it is very true. They tell us when you're in school, don't ask questions you don't know the answers to. Uh, that is true when you are in front of a jury. Um, I'm sure in every trial, you've always had that surprise look when it's like, I had no idea about this. Where did this come from? Like, this is not at all what we discussed or what the information said it was. That happens a lot, and it happens a lot in criminal court where, let's just say, there's a lot of, well, I wasn't expecting this, but I'll make it work. And if I'm in different types of hearings where I just need to get the information, I consistently ask questions, and sometimes people will tell you, and you just kind of say, "Oh, okay. Now that you've mentioned this, let me go here." But I think with preparation, you will kind of get to understanding how to ask questions and becoming more concise with your questions. I think when I first started practicing and just being in court in front of the judge, it was like, I feel like this takes so long, and this is not at all what they make it look like on TV.
It's not a 30-minute TV show.
Definitely is not. And at one point, I was like, "Y'all gonna provide snacks, or is this just gonna stay here?" But as I've kind of been able to get more experience and be more in court, I've learned to really kind of get to the meat and potatoes of what I need, and everything outside of that or the fluff. Like, I just cut it out. Sometimes it's relative, and sometimes it's necessary. In most cases, when we can just get to the point and then go to the next thing, you get there. Um, Maybe I should have taken classes from some moms that that knew how to catch their kids, because that's really what it is. And I think in litigation, the more you are able to converse with somebody or a witness, the easier it is for them to give you information.
Okay, I like that. You know, in business and general, just general business, not necessarily just in law, but in general business, that women sometimes have a harder time navigating in careers. Sometimes they have a harder time navigating. As an attorney, what are some of the challenges that women lawyers face, and how do you navigate through those?
So we are no exception to that rule in the legal community. Um, Historically, and there's a lot of research on this. Women do not tend to practice as long as men because you're met with a lot of adversity. It's kind of it's a boys club, and as a woman, you're not in the boys club, and so you are faced with a lot of obstacles to try and overcome that. And so for me, what I've kind of found is I obviously cannot be a member of this boys club, and I'm not, nor do I want to be a member of the boys club.
Well, that's
Uh,
good.
but my best way to kind of defeat having these issues with navigating being a woman in the legal profession is to just come prepared. Um, and understanding I don't have an expectation that my counterparts won't necessarily respect me, or in some instances, they're not even going to be courteous or professional. And you have to be okay with that and say, like, I'm here for my client, and I'm here to get a result for my client. And whatever that takes, that's the route that I'm going to need to go. Now, I think something that I've probably struggled with is kind of being able to draw that line and say, like, I'm not I'm not okay with this conversation or how you're speaking to me. So I'm gonna decline. I have been in instances where I think I've become a lot more comfortable doing that, saying like I'm not gonna deal with a 2-year-old who's having a tantrum. If you want to be professional, then we can get something done. If not, I'm not gonna waste my time or my client's money at this point, and kind of move on. I think the more you practice, the better you are at kind of stopping it, or let me nip that in the butt right quick before, or
For it.
saying, I pride myself on trying to be professional and understanding that there's a certain level of professionalism that I personally want to adhere to, and I'm going to extend that to my counterparts, indifferent to if I receive that back or not. But there is a point where you say, like, this is not productive, or it's not healthy, or this is just purely antagonistic, and I'm not going to tolerate it. And I know for women, I think we kind of struggle with being able to draw those lines and to say that, especially to people who will say, you don't know what you're talking about. No, sir, I do. And it's
Yeah.
right here. Do it for yourself.
And it's amazing that, I mean, because your Juris Doctorate degree is the same as a guy's, right? There's no special one, right, for women. Well, you guys get this one and they get this one, right? So why should there be a difference, right? And well, go ahead.
I think it's become a difference because we are in a society where we are kind of fashioned to say, it's a man's world. They left off the rest of what he said. It's not anything without a woman or a girl. They just threw that part out of there. They kind of muted that part. And I think we're seeing a lot of that now. Like, it's a very current, very relative issue where you're having women say, like, we're not going to tolerate this. Outside of the pay gap, there is definitely several gender issues, and that's across every sector. The legal community is definitely one that you can now see it, I think, a lot more. But historically, I walk into the courthouse here, and you look on the wall, it has pictures of all of the judges. There are no women there. They're
Wow.
not. It's just there are also no African Americans there. But that's
Okay.
it really shows to where we are and kind of where we need to move to. But some people are very fashioned in their ways. And so they think that as a woman, this is not something that you should be doing. And when you meet those type of people who have that attitude, you're met with hostility and resistance. And the only thing that I can do in that instance is maintain my professionalism and do what I came here to do, and let you be stuck on that while I walk away with a victory for my client.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate that you still have that type of mentality and attitude and entitlement that's out there today. There's a question that I didn't send you, but it just came up when you said something there. So let's say you're an attorney for however many years. Is there a certain time frame that you have to be an attorney before before you can become a judge?
So yes, actually there is. It requires that you be barred, not necessarily that you practiced. I believe it is 6 years, I want to say, for a district judge.
Okay.
Um, and it's statutorily put in place where
Right.
you have to have been barred for so many years before you can run for offices like district attorney or a judge. And I can understand the reasoning for doing that is you have to kind of have some type of interaction or understanding of the law before you can become a judge. And I know that this is probably a bit off topic,
Mhm.
but the judges that we elect are monumentally imperative, because these are the people who, if you're not in court, then you would never really know this, but these are people who are setting bonds. They're keeping people in jail. Their misunderstanding or bias can cause a severe harm to a community, including that of continuing a disparity, especially when you're talking about paying tickets, how the police are being handled. That all of that ultimately comes back to the judicial community and the people that we elect and put here to make sure that cases that are being prosecuted are being handled properly. And police activity, when they come to get a warrant signed, they're going to the judge that you elected. So
Mhm.
if
So
you
that means
know
you got to go out and vote and practice your right to vote.
you should definitely vote and ask those questions, because ultimately one day this could be someone who has power to make a decision about your life, whether that's on a criminal aspect or in a civil aspect. I don't think a lot of people think about it, but when you're talking about like custody and you're trying to be able to see your kids, or when it comes time to paying child support or things of that nature, that same judge that you elected is now really holding your life in their hands.
Right.
And I think that has not been brought to light enough, because judges have been able to kind of skate by, and it's not a topic that people outside of the legal community are discussing.
Yeah.
And they should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because most time we don't know, so we don't bring it up. So now I've been asking you a whole lot of questions around law and your background. These are just my wildfire questions, really fast. Would you rather? All right. So would you rather pick the year you die or pick the way you die?
Probably the way.
You don't want to know when.
Well, when is relative. I'm hoping that it's not in the summertime and not hot, especially not in Louisiana. I mean, it's just, man, that's just a lot going on in the summertime.
There is. But if you're dead, you're not going to know.
I'm considerate of those other people. I feel like I would hear about it at some point.
Okay. All right. So, would you rather have free Apple products forever or free Wi-Fi wherever you go?
For me, probably free Wi-Fi.
Free Wi-Fi? Okay. I had to buy a new Apple computer today, so I'd rather have free Apple products forever.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds tempting, until something new comes up, but I definitely need to stay connected.
Okay, all right. So last one, would you rather have your own private island or have your own private jet?
Oh, definitely my private island. I want one of those. So if you know one that's on sale and you'd like to gift that to me, I'm accepting those types of gifts.
Okay, all right, yeah. Hey, go ahead and get Orelia her own private island, please. Yeah, send that to her.
I'll send you the best thank you card.
We have someone that said something. Hi, guys. Peace and love from Germany. Stay safe. Awesome. Well, hello, JDM Passion from Germany. So you are international now.
Look, I'm definitely taking this to the head at this point. So thank you, person from Germany. You made my whole month.
Yeah, because when I'm just on here, nobody from Germany shows up. So let's move and talk about millennials a little bit and the iGen generation. You're a millennial, and but then the iGen generation is generation coming up right behind you. So why should millennials and the iGen generation be encouraged? There's so much negativity in the world. Why should they be encouraged?
I mean, millennials, we're kind of the next generation up. The idea of someone saying that you shouldn't be encouraged is probably the exact opposite of hope. You, when you were growing up, I'm sure can recall and remember there was always somebody there who told you that you could do it, or that there were no obstacles too big that you could not overcome. And that same should be true for our generation, especially for the next generation. Just because we do not communicate the same or things are changing doesn't make them wrong or any less. I think every person can recall having a great aunt or uncle or grandparent that said, those young kids, they're gonna be the death of us. That's that's their music is horrible. They don't know how to talk, and it's the same thing for every generation. But I think the most important thing that most people should consider when encouraging millennials and the iGen is that you have to get older, and we will be those lawmakers. We will be those people looking at the budgets, and these will be your caretakers and your providers. And you want us to come up in a way that pretty much shows, you did your best or you put your best in. You put in what you get out. So if you, as an individual, decide you don't want to deal with the young generation or don't want to help, then don't expect to get anything out of us.
I
So
like that. I like that. If you don't put anything good in, you don't expect to get any good thing out of it. Love that. Um, you know, we talked about getting into law school and that those type things, but what about for these iGeners and for iGeners and for millennials that are contemplating law school? Is there something that they should well, I guess I should say, how should they prepare for the LSAT?
oh Jesus. I took the class. I am a horrible test taker. Like horrible. So the LSAT, when you take it, seems like the most arbitrary test that you'll take because it's not knowledge based. It is based on how you think. It's literally designed to see if you can think analytically. That is how the test is designed. And as you get out of law school or kind of go through law school, some of the stuff on that test makes sense. Beat the test. Truthfully, you just need to get into law school. You can get into law school with any degree. You can come from any background because everything you need to know, they're going to teach you there. What you're learning in law school is literally how to think. That's why they call it the practice, because some days I'm like, I'm about to write y'all. I need some of my money back because I was not prepared for this. I did this was in no book. There was no scenario that you like this. You can't make this up. Like that's the life that we're living. Um, so I would say if you're preparing for the LSAT, I would take a class or understand the test that you're taking. And don't get discouraged. It's not like the MCAT. It's not actually asking you information that you need to know to help further your career when you get into, medical school or any school of that nature. It's seeing if you know how to think. And it's a different way of thinking. We're not taught in school like that, or at least we weren't. Um, I think maybe the iGen may have gotten the back end of the more analytical, educational type processed thinking, but it's not something that you're accustomed to. Just like when you get to law school, some of these subjects you've never heard of. I'd never heard of basic civil procedure. The first case I read was from like 19 something, and I had to read it 4 times, and I still didn't get it. So, and it's actually still good law, and I missed it. I had to have my professor explain it to me, and that happens, and that's okay. You just need the score you need to get in, and believe it or not, like you'll rise to the occasion. They'd say law school is difficult, and that is what it is. But it's not that it gets any easier. You just get better at handling it. And that I think that is true for every aspect of your life. Do something long enough, you'll get better at being able to tackle what's in front of you. But it's not any easier. Because when you get out and practice, it doesn't get any easier. It gets significantly more complicated.
Okay, all right. Well, that's interesting. That it doesn't get easier once you graduate. They don't. I heard that they just import all the laws into your head, and then you're ready to go. Is that not the case?
What school was that? Because I definitely look. I need to have a conversation with someone because I was not in line. I don't know if I slept through this or what happened, but we need to have a conversation.
Okay. So does it matter which when you're trying to select law school, which law school you want to go to? Does it matter which one you go to?
Um, I think for some people, they will tell you that it matters, depending on maybe what you want to do. I will say if you are intending on practicing law in Louisiana, I would recommend a school that can teach you and prepare you for how Louisiana laws operate. We are a codified state, so all of our laws are put in a book that you can go find somewhere, and you will entertain yourself for a lifetime
Mm.
going through some of these laws that are in this book. Uh, but the federal government does the same thing. If you are planning on practicing law outside of Louisiana, then that may have some bearing on possibly where you go to law school, or where you're looking at going to law school. But I can honestly tell you, I have not had one client walk in my office and ask me, where did you go to law school? Where it was relative to my representing them. If you didn't go to school here, like, I'm not going to hire you. That wasn't an issue. I'd say go tour the schools just like college. Find something that fits for you, because it is like going to high school without parents.
Okay.
So that's literally what it is. You're spending 7-8 hours a day in class, and that's what it is. So just find somewhere where you feel comfortable, because the growth of who you are as an individual will take place there. You'll probably find some of your best friends there, and a lot of your life, or that start of your professional career is going to start there.
Okay. All right. So what keeps you motivated? What keeps you driven?
It's a combination of things. Some days, honestly, it's spite. It is that mere, I adamantly disagree with what you've done or how this has been handled, and so I'm motivated to change that. And other days it's understanding that I have a responsibility and I have an obligation to see this through. And I think overall, I just kind of felt like I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think that in and of itself kind of keeps me going, because if I didn't love this, I wouldn't do it here.
Okay.
I think I would have quit a long time ago, because it can be so intense and so frustrating, and so it feels like sometimes that, even as an attorney, I feel like sometimes my hands are tied and I'm helpless to help my clients. And it gets to the point of where it's like, well, I don't know what's next. But luckily, I think when you take a step back, I'm able to say, okay, let me think my way through this, or go find somebody who can help me put this into perspective, so that I can at least get some type of relief for what this issue is.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you're saying, hey, I live the law. Law motivation says motivation gets you going, but discipline keeps you going and growing. It sounds like you have the discipline to continue to go and grow, because motivation can do this and then do this, right? That discipline and knowing you have some other bigger purpose in mind. That's what it sounds like you're saying to me.
Yeah, that's very well articulated. I'm going to steal that. Thank you.
All right, you can have it. I won't even take you to court about it either.
Send the bill to my mom. I'm sure that there's some time there that she didn't charge you for during her babysitting period.
Okay, I will do that. So a lot of people don't know that we're going to be I have on my Millionaire Boys Mentoring shirt, and we're going to be launching Millionaire Girls Mentoring this year. And you might not even, I don't know if I told you this, but we're going to do it at the high school level as well this year.
I'm very excited about that.
Okay, all right. And Miss Guillory at LaGrange High School we were just having a conversation about it today. She's excited about bringing girls. She said, I need to hurry up and get me a girls shirt as well. So I'm excited about that. So why do you believe that mentoring is so important to our youth?
My parents kept us very busy as young children. Whether it was us being active in the church, being active in school, extracurricular activities, there is not one aspect of my life, or really honestly the success that I've had, that I can't attribute to there being somebody there telling me that I can. And not just my parents. My parents were always there. God bless them. They're getting into heaven, because they probably had to deal with me. And I'm sure that I couldn't have been the easiest kid to deal with. but there was always someone there making sure that I could, or that I had what I needed, or that I got a different perspective. And it's important because that wisdom that they would impart, you can't buy that. I can't read it in a book. I can't get it from, from a stuffed animal, or that that human like that contact, that person to person contact. There is it's necessary. And I think it's kind of our obligation to really put into those that are around us. If you want your community to be better, then you must put into your community. And that is those younger kids that are looking to you for guidance and for understanding, or that have questions. Because I don't think it matters if you are a convicted felon or if you're a nun. There is something that someone can learn from what you've gone through,
Yeah.
and that should be imparted. Like, you should never leave this earth not having passed on what you've learned, or what life has taught you. And I just think it's important for somebody to tell these, to tell these kids, like, you can do it, that there's no limitations. You can
Yeah.
do whatever you want to do, and the only person who's going to stop you is you.
Yes. I love that, Aurelia. And, when you said that at the end right there, that you shouldn't leave this earth without imparting some knowledge on someone else. Booker T. Washington came into my mind because he has a really famous quote around this that says, it's imperative. I'm going to summarize it. It says, it's imperative that every person not leave this earth making it better than before they leave.
And I agree with that. I also think people should put into perspective, uh, the most valuable lessons that I have learned are from people who adamantly disagree with my position, and who, in some instances, don't don't agree with anything about me. And tolerance. I think being open minded to understand, I don't have to like you. We don't have to see eye to eye. We don't have to prescribe to the same thought processes or ideologies. But the difference between us is where you learn.
Sure.
That differing perspective teaches you to grow. Because if you're around people who think like you think, you will never know how other people think, or even the why. I can recall I used to think that people on food stamp were lazy, because that was what you heard. Like, that's what you heard on the news. That was the rhetoric that they were pushing at that time.
Hmm.
And I was working, and I ran into this young lady, and she worked really, really hard. And she was on food stamps. And the more that you dig into that, it's kind of like, oh, this is a trap. So even if you're working, sometimes the working wage isn't enough for you to provide for your family. So you use this program. Um, they made people believe, or this was the rhetoric that was being pushed at the time, that, so many people were just abusing the system. Less than 12% of people actually abused that system.
Right.
And it was not until I had an encounter with somebody who was hardworking and did everything right, and just still couldn't make ends meet, that I was able to open my eyes and say, well, let me look into this a lot more. Let me understand how this works, because I was completely ignorant to how this actually worked, or how these things should be working. And I think once you do that, you can kind of see the problems and work past a lot of your own uninformed or ignorant thoughts, or
Right.
just honest misconceptions. And that's exactly what it was. Not only was I misinformed, I was definitely uneducated beyond needs. I am glad that I had that life experience to say, um, don't be so quick to judge. You need to understand how these things work, because sometimes the rhetoric that people are pushing, or what you're hearing, that's only a small decimal point of the actual whole picture.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. So how can people, if someone wanted to, they need an attorney, or they just want to get some counsel, or are they really in trouble? How can they get in contact with you?
You can call us or you can email me. You can call my office, 337-275-5124. We have staff that's typically here from 8:30 to 12 and from 1:30 to 5. But we do take a lunch break. I believe it is very important that you have that mental break.
You mean lawyers have to eat too?
Well, and my staff, the staff have, like, if they don't eat, like, no one's gonna be happy. And this sometimes work for us, it gets so intense and it's nonstop that it's essential that you don't burn yourself out.
Sure.
You have to take that time and say, I can't be productive if I'm burnt out and I can't give my best to those people who really need it. People don't come see me because they just want to see a smiling face.
Right.
They come to you because they have a problem or they have an issue that they need you to fix. And I need to be at my best to give my clients, what they need. And if I'm burnt out or the staff's burnt out or, people around me are just exhausted, we can't do that.
Right.
So we do take a break.
Got to do it. I definitely understand. So her number and her email is right on your screen, folks. So if you need an attorney, you need some counsel, maybe she's best to refer you to someone else. Her contact information is there. Hey, Orelia, so folks, we're talking with the attorney for Southwest Louisiana, Miss Orelia Lawdins. And give our audience a couple things. So the law of environment says growth thrives in conducive environments, right? So give our audience 2 or 3 things that can help them grow themselves, grow or develop themselves.
I think the first thing is making sure that you are self-aware. And that requires that you do self-inventory and self-assessment. And the second thing is being okay failing and taking criticism on that failure, whether that criticism comes nicely packaged with a pretty bow on top, or whether it is someone who can't stand your guts trying to tear you down and they're telling you something, their delivery may not be the best, but what they're saying could have some truth in it. Take a step back and look at that. I think the third thing for personal growth is, being centered and having faith in something, understanding that there are things bigger than yourself. That's probably the most important thing. So I would
Absolutely
start there. I try to keep myself very centered spiritually, because sometimes baby Jesus is all you can say when you're in court. Sir,
Jesus help me, this judge is not.
Cannot come across this table and come get you. So just
yes, and I'm sure some of your clients are saying, Jesus, please, I need some help here. Intervention.
Yes. So I think those are probably the 3 things that I would say to look at for personal growth.
Well, that is awesome. So, folks, we've been talking, it's actually like 2 minutes from an hour. We've been talking with Miss Orelia Lawdins. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Hopefully, Orelia, you've enjoyed it as well. And here's what she said, folks. Anybody that's intentional, that wants to grow, that wants to invest in themselves can go to law school. All right. The next thing she said is you have to not let other things get in your way of you living your dream. She said that she's living her why, right? And she's living her why because it wasn't because everybody believed in what she wanted to do. Some people might have believed, but some people might have been like, nah, you don't need to do that, right? But it was her dream. So folks, when it's your dream, it's your dream. It's not mama's dream. It's not daddy's dream. It's not big mama's dream. You love all of them, but you have to live your dream. That's why you see the big, pretty smile on her face, because she's living her dream. She's living her why as the attorney for Southwest Louisiana. So that's your new tagline, the attorney for Southwest Louisiana. All right.
We're looking for one. So we're going to take that and credit it to you.
All right. Let them know that I gave it to you. I'm good. So again, thank you very much for being on the show. I totally appreciate it. hopefully you've enjoyed it as well. Do you want to leave our audience with any message or anything?
Definitely, I would say thank you for the invitation. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I would leave your audience with saying, you're your biggest investment and you should invest in yourself and don't let anyone stop that.
Awesome. Invest in yourself. So, folks, I'm going to wrap up with a couple of announcements. On August 24th, we start a new segment on the show, and it's called Healthy Eating. Get well, stay healthy with Miss Shatanya Chapman. So be on the show for that segment. We'll be doing that on a monthly basis. Healthy eating, we want to get you better. So tonight here at 6:30, I'm going to be leaving here shortly to go next door to the Empowered Living Network. We have our show on Black Entrepreneurs Live. So join us there with our audience, and then come back here for Talk with TK. This is all about mindset. But Monday night, folks, let me tell you what, Monday night, you don't want to miss the show. Let me tell you, you don't want to miss that show. If you're looking to understand how to up-level your career, if you want to understand how to get a senior executive mentor you, if you want to understand how people are making an impact in a minority community when they're not a minority, you want to be on that show, guys. I'm telling you, the guy that I'm having here, you don't want to miss that show, right? Thursday, join me at ibgr.network. That's where my weekly radio show, 4 p.m. Central, ibgr.network. I'm going to leave you with this. Always remember, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Don't be on the menu. Good night.